Hey guys, welcome back to A Sharper Life. I'm your host, Nikki Sharp, a two-time best-selling author, a wellness expert, and your personal transformation coach. So today we are doing a part 2 of last week's episode, which is all about ending relationships, boundaries, when to know to cut a relationship, a friendship, a romantic partnership, how to deal with the emotions. And I have a lot of questions. I decided to break this into a 2-part episode just because there was so much and so many different things and juiciness and really like a lot of questions. So I hope that you listened to last week's episode for part 1 to better understand everything going into this one. Now we are going to just do some quick fire Q&A, and I hope to give you as much information as possible all about friendships and boundaries with family, with friendships and really owning and honing in your own power as we enter 2025. So how do you approach saying no without feeling guilty? How do you approach saying no without feeling guilty? It's probably not going to happen, to be honest. We all feel guilt at some point, and guilt, by the way, is the only emotion on the emotional wheel and vibration scale. It is the only emotion it serves no purpose. It does nothing for us. So if you're feeling guilty, it is because you do not have conviction with your choices. And I'm going to give you a little tip and a trick, and I use it all the time, and it works wonders, and it takes away decision fatigue. I want you to ask yourself, is it a fuck yes or a fuck no? And I, on purpose, would like you to use the word fuck, because if you just say, is it a yes or a no, it doesn't evoke as much emotion. But if you say, like, if I were to ask you, is it a fuck yes to come spend Christmas with me? Well, that means that you're going to be leaving your family. You might have to get a plane ticket, right? Is that a fuck yes or a fuck no? You'll know immediately. If it is a maybe, that means that it's a no. Now, if I ask you another question of, is it a fuck yes or a fuck no, let's say to write something mean back to someone, write something mean. You start to ask yourself, like, what do I get out of writing something mean to someone? So then be like, no, that's a fuck no. Like, no, I don't want to be that person. Why? And I hope, you listened to the last episode because about, your values and how you show up in the world. But how do you approach saying no without feeling guilty? I mean, there's not a lot of context to this question, but I'm trying to think, like, let's say you get invited out for dinner by a friend. And I talked about this again last week, is where are you spending your time, your energy, and your money? And is it making you feel drained or more energized? So that's, like, for me, what goes into, actually, I'll give you a real life example. So today, as I'm recording this, I did a hotel stay 2 nights ago. I did a hotel stay because I needed to regulate my nervous system, find a bit more joy, and just, kind of an interesting week. So I came back, and then it being Sunday today, as I'm recording this, my aunt, so you may or may not know, but I have family in the UK, in London, in and outside of London. My aunt and I had a kind of TBC plan to meet up today to go for a nice long walk. I completely forgot about it, to be honest, because it wasn't in my calendar. And I had a client call today. So she messaged me and said, do you want to still meet up? I also then had my other aunt say, for next weekend, do you want to do Christmas, kind of like pre-Christmas on the weekend together with the whole family? And then I also had a sort of, I would say, not really a friend, but like an acquaintance. So in last week's episode, I talk about the different circles of people. So I have someone who, is a kind person, but I haven't shared any intimate details about my life with her. But she had invited me to an event for Christmas. And so I have kind of these 3 different things coming up. Now, I also know that I wanted to record the podcast. I wanted to work out today. I wanted to just feel a little bit grounded. And so I start to think about, and this is where I talk about, like, I want you to be selfish AF, meaning not self-centered. That's very different. Being self-centered is a no-go in my book, but being selfish AF is I want to be the best version of me, not only for me, but for you. So I know that if I said yes to every single thing, I'm going to eventually feel drained. And then when I'm drained, I'm more triggerable. And when I'm more triggerable, I get more frustrated with myself and other people. So the goal is to feel good within myself. And so I chose, unfortunately, even though I wanted to go for a walk with my aunt, I chose to say, I actually can't today because of the client call, but I will see you next week for the Christmas thing, but would love to get on a call sometime this week just to catch up, connect. That is me making a decision with conviction. So how do you approach saying no without feeling guilty? First off, is it a fuck yes or a fuck no? Secondly, is it going to drain your time, energy, money, i.e. your 3 resources? And these, your time and energy especially, are you going to feel more drained from it? Or are you going to feel more energized from it? Me going to see my family for Christmas is going to take my time, my energy, my money. And so I weigh in my mind, is it a fuck yes, fuck no? The answer is, it's a fuck yes because I don't see them very often. Now, a few months ago, there was another opportunity to see them, and I ended up saying, no, I can't because I would feel too drained. So feeling guilty is because you don't have conviction in your own choices, and you typically don't know, like, being in alignment with yourself and what's important for you. So this is why I say it is so important to know your values. Like, if health is a value, or loyalty is a value, or trust is a value, and then you're going out with someone who gossips about other people and only wants to drink alcohol and eat shitty food, like, those are kind of out of alignment with your values. So yeah, you're not going to probably feel very good. I just had an interesting thought of just okay, we're going to come back to that one. So I hope that gives you an answer there. How have you learned to walk away from relationships with grace, and some examples? Well, I think I gave a lot of examples in my last episode on this. My number one thing is not number one. I have a few things. I have rules when it comes to everything. Like, we all live within rules of society. My personal rules are, I don't do low blows. So no matter how fucked up you talk to me, like, that's ground zero. Like, we're no longer friends. But no matter what you say to me, I will not do a low blow back to you. Why? Because I have integrity, and it's important for me, because I want to feel good and proud of myself. But that being said, it's, walking away from relationships with grace. I think that is such an underutilized just word and value, is like, how do you act with grace? Like, the friendships that I've walked away from, I can say, I do not think that these people have been kind. I don't think that they have had grace. And I realize that, grace and elegance and kindness and trust and, like, these again are values. And so how I've learned to walk away, well, I've learned to walk away because I've learned to value myself so much. And I've learned that I am an amazing human being. And yes, I had to kind of question that. And I did. And I sat there for months and months during 2024 asking myself, like, am I a bad person? Am I the problem? And the answer for a lot of things is yes, I am the problem. I am the problem if I'm talking shit to myself, or I'm self-sabotaging, or I'm beating myself up because I don't think I'm doing enough in work, right? So we want to take accountability there. But am I the problem when it comes to friendships? And if someone is saying something mean to me? No, I mean, it could be. I clearly did something that triggered them. But how I walk away with grace is that if I ask you what I did wrong and you're unable to tell me with kindness, or you project on me your own shit, which we all do, like, let's be honest here. at some times in life, I mean, at times in life. But if I ask you and you're unable to tell me, or you project, or you just speak really like unkindly to me, or you're not there in a moment when I've told you that it's important, for me, walking away with grace means to simply just say, you just don't get my time. And I don't tell the person, but you don't get my time, energy, or money anymore. Like, you don't get me. And sitting with myself and really learning my own value, it was like, I think I'm a pretty amazing person. And I know that I'm kind, and I know that I'm caring. I'm truly one of the like kindest, most loyal, loving people that you'll meet. But yeah, I have motherfucking boundaries. Why? Because I don't want to be taken advantage of. And I realized like I was the problem. I was allowing people to take advantage of me. I was choosing friendships and wanting people to like me. Like, I think back to there's like certain people from a few years ago, and I'm like, yeah, I can see how I really wanted to be liked. And so funny things like happened, and I'm like, now, like me, Nikki, now, I'm like, that would have never happened back then. I would have stood up for myself far quicker and not been talked down to the way that I was in certain experiences. But that took time, and it took growth, and it took learning. And here's kind of like where I'm going with this is that we all have lessons we need to learn. And it's not like I just became some like boundary master ninja guru overnight. It took me setting boundaries within my own marriage, within like with myself, with my business, with slowing down. And like, I can really say the more that I've slowed down, especially over the summer and the past, I don't know, 6+ months, the more I've slowed down, the more I've really been able to look at my own life, what I want, who's important to me, and why. Like, so yeah, setting boundaries and like learning to walk away with grace has taken time. But I will say it's just, I think that I'm someone who, at least I can say this, who knows, my ex-husband might say something different, which I don't really fucking care, to be honest. But I think that I have walked away from any relationship that I have with grace and integrity. And I can tell you there's nothing that I would have done different about any of these relationships. So anyways, I'm proud of me. And that's really what it's about, is learning from our mistakes, because there have been times in the past where maybe I said something unkind back to someone, and I'm not that person anymore. And so, we're all going to fuck up along the way. And the goal in life is really to learn from your mistakes and then just to do things differently. So hopefully that answers that question. Next one. Ooh, this is a good one. How do you overcome the fear of outgrowing people you care about? How do you overcome the fear? All right. Well, there's a few different things within this that we got to discuss. So how do you overcome the fear of outgrowing people you care about? If you care about something, I want you to go back to, or you care about someone, I want you to go back to, what circle are they in within your life? Like, just because someone is family doesn't mean they deserve your time, your energy, or your money, right? Like, I care about my family, but I'm not at a place where they are getting so much of my time and my energy anymore. Like, I love my parents so much, but they kind of showed me during my divorce that they were not there when I emotionally needed them. And so in this, like, of course, I care about them. I fucking care about my parents so much. I love them so much. But the thing is, I have to be willing to show up for me, know my value, know my worth. And it doesn't mean, and I really want to get this point across. It doesn't mean the other people are bad. But who do you care about and why? So let's kind of check in there. So I have people that I care about absolutely in my life, but I also can walk away from them and I've talked about this before, if I feel really disrespected and if I feel like people are not taking accountability, or and I've had people straight up just talk shit about me online, and they've used things I've said, and I'm like, all right, fuck you. Like, fuck off. Like, my new thing really is just sort of like, fuck off. And I don't mean it with any anger or any malice. It's like, again, like you just don't get me, i.e. me being my time, energy, my money, my thinking capacity. Like I'd rather spend it on other things aside from someone who's saying rude things. Like, but I, in the past, have cared about those people, no longer. So let's just go back to this of when you know you're outgrowing people you care about. Well, if you're outgrowing that person, then there's already a conflicting of what you're saying. Like, I'm outgrowing this person I care about. Well, what's more important? You growing or you staying in a relationship with someone that you once cared for? It's okay to once care for someone and let go of them. We all like, this makes me think about dreams. When you're a kid, it's like, little kids are like, I'm going to be a firefighter or superhero. And girls are like, I'm going to be a mermaid or Barbie or, whatever the fuck we say. It's so cute. Our dreams change. So your friendships and people that you want in your life will change. All right. So how do you overcome the fear of outgrowing the people you care about? So there's, as I said, there's kind of like three parts to this. The fear, well, what is the fear? I'm going to be really blunt. Like, what is the fear of outgrowing? Like, so you're scared to grow? Is that what you're telling me? Because that's kind of what, like, as Coach Nikki, as your transformation, your personal transformation expert, that's what that tells me is you have a fear about growing in your life. So then my follow-up question would be, are you actually keeping yourself stuck? Are you keeping yourself stuck in similar patterns or similar behaviors? Because I can already tell you probably the answer is yes. But how do you overcome the fear? You just fucking do it. You do the things that scare you. That's it. And Mel Robbins talked about this thing, the let them do it. She has a whole book. I haven't read it, but I really want to. Let them do it. Or let them. I think it's like the let them concept. Like if someone's going to talk shit about you, let them. If someone's not going to call you, let them. Because people are showing you their true colors and everybody changes. This is the thing that we get so caught up on, like, oh, I've been friends with this person since I was in high school. Oh my God, you were a different person in high school than you are today. That was a different person in high school than they are today. So we don't want to compare things. And we don't want to say just because we've been friends for 25 years, like, I have closer friends now in the past year and a half than I've had. The friends that I have from high school, I'm like, I love you guys. Actually, I have like 2 left now at this point. But I'm like, I love you. I'm grateful for our friendship, but we're so completely different people. Doesn't mean that you can't be in my life, but you're in a different sphere in my life. That's why the spheres that I talked about are super important. So, how do you overcome the fear of outgrowing people? You check in with yourself. What are you actually afraid of? And do you, and about people you still care about? Well, why do you still care about them? Why are you like, is it because they're family? Yeah, sure. Like I care about my family, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to outgrow people at some point. So really check in on your own mindset on that one. Okay. You said a while ago you cut friends. Have you done this again with newer friends? As I said in last week's episode, I have. I have indeed. I have cut a few friends. And when I say cut, like that sounds so brutal, you guys. Like I cut. No, and I've like explained this over and over again. Like when you do, and like these people I'm pretty sure they know that they've done something hyper disrespectful because they don't message me again. It's not like I don't tell people when I quote unquote cut you out of my life, I don't write back to you and say, you're a piece of shit. Fuck you. Like you're out of my life. Bye. No, fuck that. Like that's so immature. If I did that, you guys, oh my God, I'm laughing. Oh, no. I simply just let things just like, it's the analogy I would say is like, it's like the water, like the wave comes in and then it just like washes out. Like that's literally what I think about with these friendships. I'm like, you're just kind of done. You're out of my life. I don't delete you as a contact. I don't block you. I don't, I would say there's like 3 people in my life that have gotten blocked. But anyways, have I done that with newer friends? Yeah, I have, because I felt disrespected multiple times. And I also, oh, you're going to like this one. I have a new rule. I think this might help a few people because it definitely helped me. So I have a new rule because I live a new life, essentially. I live in London for, nearly for a year. I'm making new friends. I have friends from when I lived here before. But I'm kind of like quote unquote starting over, only it's not. You're not starting over. There's no such thing as like starting over. But of course, like I'm meeting new people. So my new rule is it's the 2 time rule. If I invite you out to do something 2 times and you say no and there's no reciprocation back of like, hey, like I'm busy tonight. Like there was someone who I'd messaged saying, hey, do you want to grab drinks? And the answer was like, oh, like, thanks, busy tonight. I was like, okay, great. Then randomly another time was like, hey, do you want to, I was like, oh, I can't tonight. And I was like, and my response was actually, it's for tomorrow, not tonight. The answer was, oh, like, again, like can't. All right. Well, that's my 2 rule done. I am no longer inviting you out again. It's not worth my time or energy because you haven't reciprocated whatsoever. I have other friends, and this is like, I have, friends that have been in my life, I would say, in maybe the outer sphere for many years. And I have this is where, knowing your values, I very specifically, vulnerably, authentically, truthfully, with love, have said, I'd like to hang out more. It would mean a lot if you invited me out. And I feel like I'm the one always inviting you out. And this said friend pretty much never says yes, or very rarely. And so now I've stated my desires, I've stated my needs, I've stated what's important to me. And I have since realized, following my own 2 rule, I was like, okay, that's it. I'm just not messaging you anymore. Doesn't mean the other person's bad, but it's 2 times for anything. And then I'm done. It's just, and it really, like, it's as simple as that. So, I hope that helps some of you out there. Okay. I was talking about newer friends being cut. Yeah. And specifically because of the 2-time new rule. I also have I met a newer friend and I've invited her out a few different times. And yeah, same thing where it's like, there's not really been this like reciprocation of inviting me out. And that's another kind of thing that I've realized as well, is like, if I invite you out and you don't invite me out, and like, even if we meet up when I invite you out, if you don't reach out to me and I'm always the one reaching out, or I'm saying, hey, what are you doing? Like, no, I'm done. I'd rather live a very like lesser people life than be giving my energy to people. Like, I'm done. I really I'm going into the year of power, and it will take a lot for people to get into my circle. But yeah, I've absolutely. And like friends like that, it's like, I don't have to quote unquote cut them. They just sort of they disappear. Why? Because I'm just not reaching out anymore. And it's not like they were reaching out either. So it really goes back to knowing your own value, your own worth. Like, what are you worth? Are you worth amazing friends who reach out to you? Are you worth friends who, you have to constantly reach out? Like, what do you want? I think that's another one. Okay. Do you let them know you're cutting them out of your life or just distancing? So there's only been one friendship where I have said, I think we should take a bit of a break. And ironically, that's the friendship where now it's been cut. But no, I wouldn't let them know that I'm distancing, because I would have I don't know if you're catching the themes, the drifts here, like over and over again, that integrity, honesty, communication, vulnerability, all of these things, like I would have a conversation before I would just distance myself, and I won't write back to someone or reach out until I know like what's actually coming up from me. So if I'm feeling frustrated or triggered or annoyed, it's like, I'm probably the problem. My guess is I didn't get enough sleep last night, so, or like I'm frustrated with work. So like, let me check in with myself first before I project or blame or anything like that. Now, if it's happened more than one time, of course, then it's like, there's a bigger discussion that's needed. But the absolute, I think personally, worst thing that you can do, no, that's a, settle down, Nikki. The absolute worst thing no, that's not, Jesus. That was a little aggressive, don't we think? No. So I think something that is not very cool or kind of people is if they're just going to cut you off entirely and completely, and you have not had a conversation prior to that. That to me would say that either you weren't really very good friends to begin with, or they don't really value you as a friend. I think it's even, no, it's worse when someone says really fucked up things to you. That means they're just projecting. Like that is now an immediate out of my life. If you project and say fucked up things or mean things, like it just, we're done. But I think, there needs to be conversations before, and this is something like, I'm a different person than I was a few years ago. So the friendships that ended a few years ago, well, no, actually, I did still have open conversations and communication. No, so actually, funny enough, I'm thinking back to a few very specific people. I did try to have open conversations and took accountability, and they chose to take the violent route of saying really unkind things. And so, I guess longer answer on that is I don't let someone know that I'm cutting them off. I only will distance myself after I've tried to have a conversation, and I will only kind of cut someone off if, like, I think distancing is a great thing to do. Just don't be a dick about it and like tell the other person how they fucked up. Like that, you probably won't come back from that, in a friendship. But I think it's important, like if you need some distance, you can tell someone that, but do so vulnerably, authentically, and say like, I need distance, not because you're a bad person, but like, I'm just going through a lot right now. And I realize that maybe I'm not being a really good friend, or maybe I need to figure out, I need to like focus my time on myself. So that in my book would be okay. I distance myself from people once they've gone past a certain threshold, as you've now kind of hopefully understood. But like, no, don't tell someone like I'm cutting you off. Don't do that. That's not, if you're going to do so with kindness and with integrity, please, 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 please. Okay, this is juicy. I have two friends who cut me order of, by the way, I didn't do these orders of questions. My team put them here. Okay. I have two friends who cut me off suddenly without any explanation. It still hurts. Nothing happened between us. Bullshit. So good. Okay, first off, I'm sorry. I sound like an asshole. I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry that it hurts. What I will say, and why I'm kind of like laughing, and I'm going to help you through this, don't worry. Why I'm laughing though and saying, bullshit BS, is because nothing happened between us. And if it's two people, there's something that happened. Now, what this tells me, and there's a few different routes we can go, could it be true that you are taking no accountability right now as to what happened? Because if you come to me and say, like, all my friendships of why we're not friends anymore, I know my accountability in it. I know exactly why I chose to end it. Like, I know what led in the exact moment prior to me cutting them off, and like no longer talking. I know what happened. So if there's two people, mind you, something happened. So either you're lying to yourself, and I say this with like nothing but love, either you're lying to yourself and saying like, I did nothing wrong. Okay. If that's the case and you genuinely did nothing wrong and you have absolutely no idea, which I don't believe any of this, but okay. You have absolutely no idea what happened, then have you not reached out to these two people to say, hi, like, I miss you. What happened? Did I do something wrong? There's like so many different things within this question. God, I'm going to sound really mean for this. I'm sorry. it's, I hear you. This is the thing. Like, my heart goes out to you. Honestly, it does. And it sounds a little victim-y because it sounds like there's not a lot of accountability in it. Two friends that come, okay, so, or maybe these two friends are just like complete assholes and fuck them anyways. Like, there's something off. And granted, I know it was like a Q&A box, so there wasn't a lot to write, but like, they cut me off. Well, so they've like never reached back out to you, or did they say something, or like what happened preceding this? So what happened suddenly without explanation? Well, that's not true. Things don't happen just suddenly. Things build up, people get triggered. So have you reached out to them to say, hi, like, I'm just wondering, what happened? It still hurts. Well, I don't like, and again, I have so much empathy, like here, like it still hurt, but what hurts? Like, what exactly are you feeling? Are you feeling abandoned? Because I would say you probably feel more abandoned than anything. Do you feel shame? Do you feel embarrassed? Do you feel judgmental? Do you feel judged? I would highly recommend looking at the emotional wheel for this one, the outer layer. Because it hurts doesn't really tell. Like, I don't know what you're saying it hurts. Like, I think that you feel abandoned though. Nothing happened between us. I mean, honestly, outside of all of that being said, and let's say this, you are completely in the right here, then fuck them. They don't deserve to be in your life if that's the case. Like, this is where we want to really think about, like, what's my own value? What am I allowing myself to receive? And if you're giving your time, energy, money, and what I talked about is your time and energy is your mental capacity, like thinking about these people, like, fuck them, fuck off. Like, it's, and I say all honestly, like, as I've mentioned, I'm like a really kind person. I'm just a little fired up about this, not just this question, but in general. It's just then fuck off. They don't deserve you, honey. Like, let's make it as simple as that. If it's true that there's no accountability on your part and nothing happened between us and they've cut you off suddenly without explanation, and you may or may not have reached out and they were like, fuck you, we're done. Like, fuck them. Like, literally move on with your life, because when one door shuts, another opens, and they don't deserve you, if that's true. But there's a lot to like think about, and I like that question. I would love to coach you. I would love to coach you. Whoever wrote that question, can you DM me? Okay. How to not feel guilty about protecting our own needs when not okay, whoa, this question. How to not feel guilty about protecting our own needs when not respected by close friends. Okay, I'm going to change the language. How do I not feel guilty when I'm trying to protect my own needs that are not being respected? So essentially, I'm spicy right now, you guys. You need to learn better boundaries. It's just kind of as simple as that. Like, you're feeling guilty because you have certain needs, but then you're not staying like committed to yourself. So you're basically devaluing yourself within this. And this is for everyone, that when we don't follow through on our own boundaries, and there needs to be, how to explain it? With boundaries, if you have a certain need, like, okay, how to not feel guilty about protecting by the way, whoever wrote this, like, you just gave away your power entirely. We always want to say I. So like, how to not feel guilty about protecting my own needs. So how to not feel guilty about protecting my own needs. Well, are your needs important? Yes or no? Fuck yes, fuck no. Probably a fuck yes. Great. So how to not feel guilty? Have conviction. What do I want in life? What are my values? When basically my needs are not being respected by close friends, I would really just say, like, it sounds like you are giving away your time, energy, and money. Like, and it could be from a place of love, genuinely, but that, like, you're going out with people, or you're making plans and they're not reciprocating, or you're not feeling supported by them. And then, there's not enough kind of context to the question, but it sounds like maybe there might be a little bit of resentment happening. And then you're trying to set a boundary and it's not being followed through. Boundary setting happens for, like, you, me. A boundary this is where people get boundaries wrong so much. A boundary is not about you. It's about what I will allow and tolerate for myself. So think about your house. There's four walls, there's a ceiling, you have a front door, and you have some windows. Boundaries or lack of boundaries is like leaving all of your windows up and your front door open and then getting upset when someone walks through. And it's like, wait, but you can't come in. That's my house. It's like, well, no, you didn't close your own door, and then you're getting mad at me. So a boundary is really about like, and get clear on when you say like my own needs. Like what are your needs? Because is it your needs, or is it like this is what you want, you desire? Are they your values? But like, what are your needs in a friendship? But if someone's not respecting your needs, then either they're not very good friends, or just something to think about, you're not stating your needs very well. Like, we really got to think about these different things within because relationships are so nuanced, and they're like, if you think about it, we're all just little walking children in adult bodies who get triggered as fuck, and we don't get enough sleep. We're not typically eating enough or moving our bodies. And then we get frustrated that other people, like you get triggered at work and then you take it out on your best friend, or you call someone with an expectation. Like, how many expectations, by the way, do you have on your friends? We all do. So this is why like relationships are so nuanced, and it's not about just like projecting and blaming someone else. It's really about taking accountability, seeing, like, checking in with yourself. Where do you maybe have expectations or needs that you're not sharing? Where do you have boundaries that you're not letting someone else know? This is, we gotta like just kind of, let's talk about it. That's what we're doing really here. But how to not feel guilty, have conviction, know what your needs are. And if they're not being respected, then you are either not sharing your needs, or you're allowing people to break your boundaries with no consequence. So that's the answer to that one. Oh my God, you literally couldn't make this up. How do you communicate your boundaries? Well, first off, you got to know what they are. Like, what are your boundaries? My boundaries, for example, is my phone goes off at like 9 p.m. It goes on airplane mode. You will not get a hold of me until the next morning when I wake up. That's my boundary. So often, and I have clients who are like, oh, so-and-so, they like call or text like at such random hours. And it's like, okay, have you told them not to? And sometimes they're like, yeah, they still do. It's like, okay, so the boundary is that there has to be a consequence attached to it. Like, for me, you can text me at any time of day that you want. It doesn't mean you're going to hear back from me. But if I get mad at you for texting at 6 a.m. my time and my phone was on, that's my fault, right? That's not your fault. That's my fault. But if I tell you multiple times over and over again that please do not call me at 6, right? Like, I'm up with my kid and it really distracts me, and you continue to do it, well, that's where you have an open and honest and vulnerable conversation to say, hey, I've shared this a few times. I just want to check in because right now it feels like what I told you is not important. That's how you communicate boundaries. That's how you do it. And the boundaries, though, is like, really, boundaries are about you, not necessarily other people. I need to do a full episode about boundaries because it is a hard one. I understand boundaries are hard. I'm the fucking queen of boundaries, though. Like, I'll give you an example. And this didn't happen, but I will actually, no, how do you communicate boundaries? So I did the UTP, the Ultimate Transformation Program. We did the retreat a few weeks ago, and I had a very clear boundary, and I said, at X time, you all will go for lunch, and they agreed, whatever time. And as that time frame approached, I said, okay, it's time for you to go to lunch. I'll see you back in an hour. It was as simple as that. And it was also, what did not happen, because I was very clear in the boundary. I wasn't rude. I wasn't mean. I didn't say like, you all are unwelcome. It was like, I need time for me to kind of rejuvenate, during our retreat and go explore, and I'll see you again. And then when we ended the retreat, we went to high tea. And prior to it finishing, because high tea takes about an hour and a half, after, well, I think we'd hit about an hour and 15 or something at that point, and I was done. It was like 6:30, and I went, paid the bill, and I said, ladies, I love you all so much. Thank you for coming. This has been absolutely amazing. I'm going to go in the other room, have a glass of wine, just chill, journal, because I need to decompress myself. And there was no fight back. Why? Because I set my boundary with clarity, with love, with authenticity. So I keep repeating these certain words over and over again, because if you do that and you share boundaries openly, people typically will respect them. And if they don't, then do you really want that person in your life? Okay, next one. We're going to go a little bit quicker. How do you deal with the anger at, oh, this is a good one. How do you deal with the anger at a friend months after cutting them off? Well, what did you learn? What are the lessons that you learned from cutting the friend off? I.e., why did you cut them off? So clearly they did something mean or fucked up. And anger, by the way, this hopefully will help you a lot. Anger is hurt masked. Anger is hurt masked. So really, you're angry as fuck, but honestly, honey, you're hurt. And that's why it's hard to let go, because you're hurt that someone could have done something very unkind to you. Does that ring true maybe for any of you? I know it rings true for me, because yeah, I can sit there and be angry at someone all day long. But the truth of it is I'm hurt that my friends did these things. So as I said before, where are you spending your time, energy, and money? Are you spending, well, you already told me by the question, you're spending your time and energy thinking about this person who doesn't fucking deserve you anymore. So I would say, why did you cut them off? Like, what did they do? What's your accountability in it? What is your lesson going forward, i.e., so that you don't call in the same sort of people and patterns? And where does there need to be some sort of forgiveness? Because if you're feeling anger at them, I can already guarantee because we talked about this in the last episode, how others treat us is how we treat ourselves. So my guess is there's some anger that you have within yourself. There needs to be some self-forgiveness. Until you can let go of anger and have forgiveness, that is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. Holding on to anger hurts you, not the other person. So at this point, it's really in your best interest to forgive. It doesn't mean that it's justifying anything fucked up what someone did. But forgiving someone is saying they probably did this in a moment where they were angry or frustrated or triggered, and I forgive them so that I can set myself free. Because I guarantee when you're angry, you are not feeling good about your life. You are not calling in what you want. You're not in a place of manifesting. Also, when you are angry at someone, especially for women, we hold on to anger in our hips, and you have increased cortisol. So like your hips and your thighs, you get cellulite. So like really it's in your best interest to forgive. Okay, next question. How do you decide to do it, and how do you do it? I think I kind of answered that one though. Like if I feel disrespected, and especially if it's more than once, like it's not just a one-time thing where I feel disrespected. To get like the full acts, I would say almost is like maybe a 3-time rule, but I don't know. It's just if I feel heavily disrespected, and I've kind of explained how I do it. Can you share some examples, reasons why you've ended friendships? Essentially, it's really come down to people saying rude things, like using things, vulnerable things against me that I've shared with them. If you blame and project onto me, and I've received this where like I've received page long messages from people, and I'm like, just fuck off. Like that's so silly and unnecessary. Like meaning that you're clearly just wanting to project. You're not wanting to find a solution. And in that case, I'm like, fuck off. Like you literally don't get a response from me. If someone is kind of putting a lot of blame, and this actually just happened more recently, but like putting, like, I kid you not, I received a message saying, our friendship can resume if you admit that you're the problem. I'm like, excuse me? Huh? What's your accountability in this too? Like, what the fuck? So that to me is an immediately, we're done. You don't need, I'm not writing back to that. Like, there's no meat in the middle. I'm like, just, we're done. Like, as I said, you don't get my time or energy or anything at that point anymore. And it all just goes back to like really sitting with my own discomfort, because I am a recovered people pleaser. I think we all are on a deep level where it's like we all want to be liked. And now I just don't fucking care. Like I said this, there's 8 billion people. Not all 8 billion are going to like you. So pick and choose, like be so picky and choosy of who you want in your life. Because I can say, having, quote unquote, lost a few friendships, like, yeah, that's sad that those people are gone, but we're not in alignment anymore. And that's okay, because everyone is always growing. Every single day, the earth grows, it changes. So like, how dare you, how dare I, how dare anyone sit there and think, your friendship should be the same as it was 20 years ago? No, your body isn't the same. The earth isn't the same. Nothing is the same year after year. And so relationships take time and effort and energy and the desire to feel seen and heard and want to be supported. And so it's really like understanding your values. And if you don't feel valued by someone, or you feel drained by them, or you feel like you're giving, and they're taking, like, then move on, because life is truly like so short, and we all just deserve to feel loved and be loved. And like, but you got to learn your lessons along the way. You got to learn the lessons along the way. Okay. Sort of same. It was last, what makes you decide to cut someone out? I've kind of talked about that. So, I really hope that you enjoyed and learned something from these 2 episodes. The last thing that I will kind of share, just as I've talked a lot about friendships, and I did mention my parents, like, I love my parents, but I also know that when I'm in a harder place in my life, they are not there emotionally. They're not great people to be there emotionally. So I have learned I'm setting myself up for failure. I'm going to be angry and upset that if I call my mom when I'm having a really shitty day, she just starts to worry, and it sometimes, turns it around, and it doesn't make me feel supported. And so I have learned how to navigate, and this is like a whole nother episode, but I have learned how to navigate certain relationships where I don't want to cut her out, but I also know that if I'm going through a tough time, you're not the first person I'm going to call, which is why it's important to know kind of the circles that people fit into. But yeah, I hope this helped. I hope both of these episodes helped. They were really fun and juicy to do. I would love to hear any feedback from them. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Do you have follow-up questions? But yeah, it's an interesting one, because I think I had more questions from this than any other topic that I've done recently. So clearly, we all got some things to learn, and going into 2025, I hope that you can learn your values and your strength and your power and who you are and what you deserve. And my like true wish would be that people can be a little, you listening, all of you, just like that everyone can be more authentic and more vulnerable, because then we wouldn't be so frustrated within our relationships, and we'd be able to have more open and real conversations and communication. So anyways, I love you. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, share it with family. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. There are new episodes every single Monday, and I'm back. I'm fired up. I'm feeling good. And until next week, here's to a sharper life.